Hi everyone, welcome to Reasoning Machine. Welcome Subbu.
Hello. We skipped 1 week. Is it?
Yeah, almost 2 weeks, I guess.
Skipped 2 weeks.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think one of those episodes we recorded and then we had to scrap because of
correct.
the audio quality.
Yeah.
So
So
there
we,
is no cricket news for today.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean it will start, right? IPL is going to start, and we'll have news every other every other day actually.
I don't. Are you still excited for IPL? I completely lost interest on that. Maybe at least till Super 8 or something. I may not probably
Yeah, that is true. I think
watch maybe.
I just too many matches. Yeah, that's true. Maybe we should wait for the last few matches. Probably it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so today we thought we'll talk about a topic which we touched base a few episodes back, which was around the OpenClaw, right? We did a
Mhm.
brief about that. But now what's happened is so many things are happening around that. Recently, NVIDIA launched an enterprise sort of a version based on that, which they call the Nemo Claw, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also there are humpty number of Chinese based I mean clones you may call, which I've come across, right?
Mhm.
And what interestingly I also found is I mean every other competitor has some sort of a version around it, like say Claude has something which they call dispatch, I think,
Yeah.
which
I
you can,
mean,
yeah,
cloud or even the cloud computer as a cloud agent or the
correct.
yeah,
I think the dispatch is one what they call where you can initiate the, I
yeah,
mean, whatever
correct.
you want to do remotely.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think obviously Perplexity, what are they called? Perplexity
You
Computer.
have not mentioned that we are going to talk about OpenClaw. So
Yeah, I mean, I just thought this whole ecosystem is sort of getting pretty interesting, right? And that's what probably uh, we thought we'll discuss about, correct?
yeah,
And
yeah.
also, NVIDIA founder talked about this has been the biggest open source contribution ever and all that. So he just hyped it up a lot. Every other
No, but
company,
I mean, I agree to some extent, but yeah, we will evaluate that. So,
yeah. So, where do you think this is heading, Subbu? Is it going to be like a default now? Everyone is going to have their own personal agent, or is it mostly going to be an enterprise play? I think whatever Nvidia is doing is definitely the enterprise play, but I don't know
yeah.
about others. So, what's your take on this? And maybe you can start about talking about some of the Chinese clones you have seen and what they are doing, which is different.
Yeah. So I mean, like to just give you a little bit of intro in terms of we couple of weeks back in one of those episodes we talked about OpenClaw in terms of how what design architecture it is get, how it is just able to transform the large language models into agents and stuff like that. Right? We spoke about that, but we didn't go. I mean, like we touched upon in terms of like what it's a high level design architecture and the interface layers, orchestration, and other things and stuff like that. So post that, a couple of things happened. One is they also OpenClaw released something called a multi-agent capability, wherein you will have one agent has an ability to spin up multiple sub-agents and stuff like that. So that is some update which came in the middle of March, or I mean like early March or something. And then the other,
So, what
uh,
exactly
im-
does that update do? I haven't
no,
tried.
we'll
Yeah.
do. No, we go to that little later
Okay.
because it's just after context we can just go there. So the other important thing which triggered me to talk about it little in detail was that the kind of rapid adoption that was
Yeah.
happening in China, and I think if I'm not wrong, third week of March, the China has overtaken US in terms of usage of open cloud
That's right.
agents,
Yeah.
right? So China has become the number one consumer or like the number of installed base for OpenClaw above US. So this is something which is like kind of a titanic shift moment, which you call like basically in the technology where you have like kind of this traditionally you will have US, Europe leading the install base and then rest of the nations follow. And this is possibly for the first time I see something like an US, I mean, Austrian. OpenClaw is like technically by Peter Steenberger, who's an Austrian actually. And then predominantly, like, I mean, his contributions are from US, and then he's been more or less working out of US and stuff like that. So, but then this kind of again triggered my interest in terms of like, I wanted to, have my own instance and
Great.
experiment a little bit more and stuff like that. So coming back to China thing, there are multiple things happened in China. One is that your traditional vendors, cloud vendors like Alibaba, Tencent, and other vendors are like able to uh, provide single VPS wherein you just do one click install and then it's just able to deploy automatically in the cloud, and then you plug in like OpenClaw's interesting architecture is that you can plug in any LLM, cloud
Correct.
LLM as
Yeah.
a backend actually. So you can do that. So you can just pretty much use DeepSeek, or you can use Gwen, or you can just go back with the US vendors like Anthropic or OpenAI or any of those. So that is one thing. And also the kind of interesting other things which happened, what I noted is also the cloud vendors were able to give this VPS and free tokens for Kimi or your Gwen, and other guys were like immediately said like, if you're just, we are giving you free tokens till March and stuff like that, wherein you will be able to install, have this one click VPS ready install and then play around with it and stuff like that. And they also started running this lot of these camps wherein like elderly, college kids, and other things. There are like people like in thousands were just lining in queue, wherein this is like kind of I've never seen anything other than an Apple phone where you see a lot of consumers who just go about standing in front of the uh, standing in front of buy a product. I've never seen somebody so keen on adopting in a cloud instance, with so much of enthusiasm going and across all age groups, like from college kids to elderly. Everyone wanted to have deployed their own instance, play around with it. I think the biggest attraction is that the ability to have your WeChat or WhatsApp or any of these as your, the channel for communication and stuff like that. And
But
there are
I mean, have you seen any? I mean, what are these people doing with that? Is it?
yeah, I'll come to that. There are
Yeah.
a lot of interesting stuff happening in China,
Yeah.
and the other thing is that there are a lot of state provinces like your Shanghai and other state Wuzhou and other state provinces. The state government has picked up this trend, and then they said like, if you're just putting up a one-person company, which is just primarily uses OpenClaw, and then you're building your own business and stuff like that as a one-person company, the state government is ready to subsidize that and give cloud credits, LLM token, and other things. So we have seen this kind of trend happening in India, where you in the early 2000s, and where you see like uh, we build this STPIs and then give tax
Correct.
breaks for the companies to come and run and stuff like that. So this kind of the state government picking up these kind of clues and then promoting, and then cloud vendors picking up the cues from the understanding the demand, and then creating the tools very easily people can consume, and the state governments are doing. And there is this word of mouth interest, which is like basically just driving across all age groups to interest to the small entrepreneurs, college kids, older people, all of them, they are like interesting use cases they have been deploying it. And the cloud vendors and the native service providers like e-commerce and other guys, they're also actively building skills for OpenClaw.
Okay.
So it is like it is becoming an ecosystem around OpenClaw there, wherein you have a large install base, and there's a cloud provider who is able to make the deployment easy, install and deployment easy for you. And then the governments are able to, interested to subsidize a one person company with the tokenization money, or like
Right.
cloud cost and other things. And there is this word of mouth excitement, and people want to, even small entrepreneur want to basically just deploy this and see what are the various areas within their business they can just automate. and get rid of some of the people, some of the functions which they're either doing it by subscriptions always, or like they're getting it done by external vendors
So
and
is it
contractors
like
and stuff like that. So
I think the
a multifold, a
OpenClaw is
multifold,
yeah, yeah.
it is like a multifold activity, which I thought, that is very interesting to just
Okay.
note around this project also. And in the other, even if you look at the dev ecosystem, the I have not seen this this many stars if you want to take that as like a notional value for the success of the project, or like the popularity of the project. I've not seen some of the projects which is climbing this fast. Like, probably for me, this is one of the most fastest growing GitHub project I've ever seen, actually,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am. We can go back
So again,
to.
coming back to what I mean, I'm just still curious. What are people doing with this? Is it because one thing is it is little technical in nature, right? This whole open cloud. I don't know what these cloud players have in China has done it. They made it easier for people to adopt or whatever. But still, what do people do with it? What are the use cases they have?
No, I mean, see, I'm not saying that everyone has ironed out their use cases and they're doing it. But what I have seen that is that there is a lot of this excitement. So if I just go back and draw a little bit of parallel in the early 2000s, I am not. There are not many people who have got no understood the capability of a PC back then, but they still go rush and buy a PC and hire somebody to come to their house and install software for that so that they can
Okay.
play around with stuff like that. So similar nature, if you look at it, there are like a there are like so many vendors who are evolved around this ecosystem. They charge $70 to come to your house and install OpenClaw in your Mac Mini or a Raspberry Pi and deploy it and go, like, install or uninstall. I see. Not everybody may not have ironed out all their use cases. This is how I'm going to do it. But then there is an interest, which are like the user base, which is kind of just automatically getting into the system and deploying it and then playing around with it. I'm sure, like, each one of them, how they turned their PCs into their work cars. I'm sure they will be able to turn this agent software into their means, and however they want to just replace whatever use cases their lifestyle. I can see that parallel happening, and it is like so. I feel so bad that we don't have that kind of momentum in India for this. I'm really surprised about that, but then yeah, this is
No,
what
and
is
I think
happening.
again, I feel in India, unless some ISP takes it over, maybe they may push this, but I think still people may not know what to do with it, right? Because
No, ISPs can take over once the word of mouth interest, what you were seeing in China, like, because everybody has to go back and ask
no,
Airtel or
see
somebody
exactly that is
or the
why
cloud
I'm
vendors
also
here.
still again curious.
I'm
I
I'm
have
I'm really surprised why this we have such a huge developer base in
correct.
India, and why is that every dev is not running this in their home actually? I mean, like, this is something. This is where you should be. I mean, this is what you should be doing. I'll tell you one thing. I put up the whole thing in a K3 cluster on a Raspberry Pi, a 3 node worker and a two master node, and this is three of the Raspberry Pis are running on Pi 4 and two are running on Pi 5, and they are like, I mean, like, I can just vibe code. It creates ops scripts, bash scripts. You can
I
just
think we
like
should talk
summon it
about it.
any
So,
of
what's your setup? Is it like you said 5 Raspberry Pis you have?
yeah,
Okay.
and three worker node and two master nodes which I'm running there.
Okay.
And they're all running in single cluster. So they use something called the K3, which is in a lighter version of your Kubernetes.
What are you doing with it? I
And
mean, how are you communicating with it?
it just basically, I've installed a Telegram and opened one channel account for that. So just start communicating uh, via the Telegram thing.
Okay.
And it has been a big revelation for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
not seen this kind of exciting stuff in a long time, actually.
No, it definitely. I mean,
I mean,
that's where we
we
talked
can
about when
we
it
can
came, right? So
I
I
mean, we can. we can talk about it a little bit in terms of how I'm using it little later. But then, if you want to go back to the excitement around what is happening in China, we can just finish off all that and come back to
Yeah, I did read
what I'm
about it.
doing
I
and how
mean,
I can.
the number of I mean, it's quite frenzy going there, right? I think all kind
Absolutely.
of companies, cloud companies, whether you take the big ones, small ones, they're all having some sort of offering around it, which is pretty exciting to see. I think still, I think you're so why my take is why we are not picking up in India is probably because the kind of automation there in our homes are still pretty much nothing, right? Maybe in China they have a lot of devices which they are at home. They are kind of trying to start, let's say, a remote washing machine or checking who is in my door or whatever, right? I think that is a pretty exciting use case, definitely for the normal users, right? So they don't need to really rely or tie into one single
No,
ecosystem.
I don't see those kind of things that much actually. There are even a lot of small mom and pop shops guys who are just trying to install and then see what are the various things they can just replace is what how I look at it.
Yeah,
It's
but a
just
normal user,
purely
Subbu, I think still I feel they need to see a use case, a real application of why would they install, correct? I mean, I leave the developer ecosystem. Obviously, they will figure out what to do.
no, even as a consumer stack, if you're looking at it, you're researching on a product, or if you're just buying something or on an online service, if you're like doing or like you want to have something like a quick snapshot of what is happening in the world for you coming in from different sources, summarized nicely to you in the morning,
Hmm.
or you want to just go on hyper local and want to know what is happening in your constituency and stuff like that, where you want to go read multiple news outlets and stuff like that. So these are something which you can summon an agent to do it, and then it just sends you a beautiful summary every day morning, like a
Yeah.
clockwork, right? Like if you have the cluster running somewhere, and these are some of the use cases, even a general public who has no computer knowledge can ask a bot, an agent to do this, and then he can just. It could be like you have built a portfolio of stocks and
Hmm.
you want to know the stories around that, like by not visiting Bloomberg terminal or any of this. So I can just go back and list multiple use cases even for general public. So that is the reason I was telling you, even if you're running a small shop where you have a social media account, you're posting certain amount of like a social media engagement posts every day. All that is people are just automating those, like allowing agents to draft post them, and then where they validate and then approve them and stuff like that. So there is like a humpty number of way people are using it. Like there are people who are installing it and asking agents to track invoices which are coming into their day-to-day basis, and there are vendors who are just practically looking at something like how can I build an monitoring for my POS kind of a thing. So there are a lot of interesting ways. Like, is it easier for me to pull data from my POS and then create analytics and stuff like that? So wherein you have to take that and push it to Airtable or something like that, where you're in the earlier days where you have to end of the day you have to pull that out and push it somewhere else for analytics and stuff like that. So there are different ways people are doing it. It's just that the small it's just that the enthusiasm and asking and learning along with the agent is something which is very appealing to people, is what I feel. Like
No,
most of
definitely
them,
is appealing. I
okay, I
feel
have
here
this
it
task.
is, we have some sort of an education issue, I guess, where this is not yet popular. Even in the tech savvy community, I see not many people have really, I mean, some people have even surprised that they didn't even know about this, right? And I think it's because maybe they are in their own
I mean,
LLM world, whatever.
let's
So,
Yeah, I mean, let's not hang on to the topic of why it's not popular in India, but then we can just move on. But I see there's a contrast between what I see in China here. I just wanted to highlight that, but then let's not hang in there, and then we can just move.
yeah, again, coming to, let's say, why, I mean, what is a, I mean, are you want to talk about more use cases here or about your
No, I
environment?
mean, which before, maybe we can talk about my thing, and then I'll tell you what personal use cases I'm doing. which is a mixture of both work and personal use cases which I'm running actually. I'm even offload some of the work which I need to do for my primary day work, and then I'm offloading some of the tasks there actually. So it's a
Okay.
very interesting mix. So for me, if you look at it, that's we can go back to that in a detail actually.
Hmm.
But then you want to do something, you want to talk about something else on around this in China, or like you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. What is the interest around in the enterprise space? Why did Nvidia pick this up, and what are they doing with it? Is one thing which I want to talk about. I don't know if you know enough about it, or what are they trying to do actually. So,
No, I looked at it. I think there is one missing piece in this is that the enterprise law is on the security and privacy side, which is
right.
this. They want to have a little bit more control, fine grained control, which is like kind of lacks in terms of like when you put a bare metal deployment of this. There are plugins and skills available where you just do a little bit of tweaking and stuff like that. But wherein if you just want to go out of the box, you just want to deploy like a VPS and stuff like that, there's a small security risk in terms of like I mean, you still have provisions in terms of how to define security there, but it is not out of the box defined.
But
I
I
have not
mean, where
looked.
do you
I have
see?
not looked at the. I have not looked at the Nvidia thing in
Okay.
detail, but what I have read
No,
basically
you're
is
right.
that they're just
Yeah.
trying to. Yeah,
They have just hardened it a little bit. I think that's what I understood.
yeah.
But I think I still don't know how people would use this in an enterprise, right? This is a very personal sort of an agent. How they are people are
It
going to
is.
use it.
It is not personal sort of agent at all. It's
I
not.
mean, that is where the excitement is
Uh,
around, right? So,
no, we are talking about the consumer tag. I mean, the consumer stack side, we are talking about the excitement and adoption. But if you look at purely on the enterprise side, if you want to deploy it and then want to do certain things on for the enterprise use case, yeah, I mean there are like, and especially with sub agents coming in and then multi-tenant installation support and stuff like that. This is like you can just have like kind of multiple agents working on within your enterprise doing multiple stuffs actually. And absolutely, there's no they can even go out of control if you're if you're less letting it to unleash it actually. I mean, like until unless somebody experiences the agent, the power on which they work on in the background tasks, I mean, it is very difficult for people to even imagine uh, having your own computer where it is having an ability to spin multiple threads and then have one kind of a centralized node which manages all the hubs, and each one has the context basically set nicely within your local machine, where it is not that it's just not like your cloud LLM where you need to have that kind of a context for a certain period of time, or you have to buy more tokens and stuff like that. Where here it is everything is defined as like tasks there basically. If you are very good at documenting or breaking down your tasks into smaller chunks, and this tool is like so powerful. Again, it can do wonders if you just plug in a cloud LLM back into it for accuracy and more, you know, uh, I've not installed any local LLM to try it out because it's just I don't have the kind of a hardware at my home which can just
so
deploy
let's
in a
talk about
local
a little bit
LLM.
about your setup, right? I mean, I'm just curious about what could be an ideal setup. I know in US and other places, people are just buying too many Mac Minis and running whatever thing they want to run in
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
But
Yeah,
let's say an ideal simple setup, right? Let's say if I don't have like
yeah,
a Mac Mini at home, I mean, most of us use mostly laptops, which may not be running all the time, right? Um,
yeah.
so I think your setup, what you've done, sounded interesting to me. So you want to talk a little bit about it. Let's say if I want to run a very simple agent, if I can, let's say, buy
Yeah.
one Raspberry Pi, not like I don't want to run a cluster and all that. A very
Okay.
simple small agent which can do some basic tasks. Let's like as you said, let's say it can summarize some things, or it can take some action and do something, right? What's the sort of an ideal setup we're looking at?
If the scenario you explained, that may not be able, you may not be able to achieve that with the Raspberry. You might have to have Mac Mini or a PC for that kind of a scenario if you
Okay.
want to run them there. So you need a little bit more than Raspberry Pi's ability to have this kind of one single setup for that.
Hmm.
But if you're looking at something like See, K3 and Raspberry cluster is like again is just extremely simpler these days because even those scripts, your Ansibles can just create that, and then it just out of the box it can just create the setup. But then coming back to your specific question, then you need to if your scenario is like what you explained, ideal candidate for you would be Mac Mini, where you run OpenClaw on a Mac Mini, one or multiple, wherein you have everything out of the box,
Right.
the security and everything out of the box taken care for you.
So, just another question. I see it is being more popular with Macs, right? And maybe Linux, obviously. But why not with Windows? What is the problem with Windows?
I have not touched Windows more than a decade, so I don't even know what is there. I have absolutely no
Is
clue.
it because
I
this thing is headless and all that, or I don't know. I mean,
no, I
I have
think
also
see
not tried. I have tried only in my Mac Mini. So,
no see the thing is that if you're using tools which are like Bash scripts or cron job or
correct.
you're like you want to have some kind of a sandbox and stuff like that, all the modern tools a developer enjoy uses it. I don't know whether those are available in Windows these days. I don't know. I'm not very sure. I've not touched Windows in a long time, so I'm not aware of it. I don't even know if there is an OpenClaw version available there to run it and stuff like that. So I'm not very sure. So if because Mac and Linux share the similar kind of uh, like you can have sandboxes running, you can have a cron job, you can have all these things like wherein, or you can even simulate a Linux environment within the Mac and stuff like that. I
Right.
think you can also do that with Windows has something called WSL or something they have where it runs like a Linux instance or Linux kernel within Windows environment and stuff like that. So using that, you may be able to run OpenClaw like within the Windows, run a Ubuntu instance, and then I think that's called WSL if I'm not wrong. Actually, I'm not very sure. I don't remember. I remember reading somewhere that where your Windows has the ability to run a Linux instance within that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because most of the, I mean, installations are revolving around Mac, right? So that's what I mean.
Most
Even
of the devs
including
these days, yeah, most of the devs these days use either like Mac or Linux. I don't know
no,
any
even the
devs are
other,
using.
like say the cloud, what they've released, they are also
Uh,
predominantly on Mac. I mean, some of
uh,
these features which I'm talking about, right?
I mean, yeah, okay. But are there any devs who use like if I'm not developing anything on .NET or something, is there any necessity for me to use Windows? I don't know. I don't think so, right?
There are
These days.
still quite. I mean, if you look at the enterprise crowd, it's still predominantly Windows, right? Even though they may be working on cloud and other things, I think
No, but
it's
they might like basically have that run to their business, but then all their business software will be developed on sitting on the cloud,
correct.
which
That's
is
right.
are using open source technology.
Yeah.
So those devs will be continue to use Linux on. But I don't know. I don't know. Are there anyone developing Windows-based clients these days? I don't think so. Like
Not Windows
they are
based
mostly on
clients,
the
but
web.
still the developers,
Yeah,
I mean, the enterprises still issue mostly Windows laptops. That's what it's
they
still,
might issue, but then like
yeah.
it's just the shell which is running, and then entirely inside you might be running cloud and other things, which
That's
are
true.
like absolutely there's no use of.
So where do you think this is heading next? I know this guy joined OpenAI, and
Yeah.
this has been like now I think there's so many clones have come, which is in itself is a problem, right? Then once they
It's
start,
not
is it?
see inherently it's not a problem because open source that's how things move, and then you will have people fork and then they just innovate. That is how I'm not really worried about the clones because bigger companies like ByteDance and other guys are doing it, and this is like classic open source development, right? This is how it should be, and this is how it will move, and then this is how it should be because you need to have competition. Some of the projects will do an improvement and then they contribute back to the
Yeah.
project where they forked and stuff like that. So this is just I don't see those are a problem. That might be a problem for people who don't know where to start, like which one to use and stuff like that. But then if you're a dev and then you're following stuff and then stuff like that, then I don't think it'll be a big problem at all. Actually.
Yeah, the only thing why I'm saying it because then there'll be like some 1,000 class projects roaming around, right? And each one trying to
I
do
mean,
their own
these
thing.
things will die, right? Like you have so many JavaScript frameworks and projects which just they pop up here and there, and then they just die. And this is like classic open source, right? Like this is how things move. These are like a framework, right? Like where people will have their own interest and then they'll just do it. And then if you have good sponsorship, they succeed. Otherwise, it just fails and then move on. And I don't see that. See, the whole important thing for me too is that how this architecture and design is just conceived and then been contributed, and that is the key driver for me. And I see this just kind of a blueprint for an
AI
agent
adoption,
software,
yeah.
be it on the consumer stack or enterprise. I don't see there is anybody else who's come out with a better blueprint. Actually. For me, this is just all the elements in OpenClaw is just kind of beautifully designed blueprint for agent software.
No,
And
that I completely agree. This is a
yeah,
definitely a great blueprint, a framework for doing better agentic AI, whether within the personal or enterprise context. Enterprise context, I still have, I mean, some concerns around how people use it, but yeah, I think we have to see. But I think apart from what NVIDIA has done, have you really seen any other enterprise software providers picking this up?
enterprise software, I don't know, but ByteDance have made a cloud, made a fork. I don't know whether it is a fork or they have basically they come out with their own project. I'm not very sure about it. But then Alibaba has their own thing, and there are so many
Yeah,
smaller
yeah.
vendors also is trying to similar thing. So I mean, like there is nothing wrong. This is our classic open source. This is how things are developed in the ecosystem, and it is like a normal, natural, right? Like in how in nature who succeeds.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Right?
Yeah, pretty interesting. I think I am still figuring out what would be a good use case for a normal user, right? Not a tech user, but what would they do with it? We still need
No,
some pretty good
if you
examples.
tell me a profile of a guy, I can tell you the use cases for you. If you can just highlight something like what kind of profile of a guy you're using, you're looking at it, then I can tell you the use cases because it's just easier for me. Because like if you put everybody in same basket, it's difficult. But if you say this is the
So I mean,
characteristics of
just
a guy,
connecting back with the store owner thing which you talked about, right? Let's say I'm running a
uh,
small store.
right?
Why would I use something like this? What's the use case?
No, like for a store owner, it is very simple, right? Like if you're like managing a contact list or a client list or something, and then you want to just to frequently write them emails or push them some kind of advertising materials to them. You can just give API keys to your SA, your cloud service where cloud OpenClaw can just access the contact customer databases,
Okay.
and it can build a newsletter for you and draft, create an animation, whatever you want to do, everything, and then put it as a draft to you, and then it can access all the contact lists and it can email itself, and you just have to tell one command in your Telegram or WeChat saying that this draft looks good, send it across. It's as simple as that. And then if you look something like you want to take some data from your POS system, and then you want to do some analytics on that, you are doing it every day. And you can ask one of those agents to access the POS system via API and then pull the data, summarize whatever you want to do it. All that you can do that without sitting in front of a computer, interacting with a Telegram channel. It can generate a PDF and just throw it on you. Like you can just
But I think the
umpteen number
power
of
of
use
this
cases.
is mostly if you give browser and complete local access. That's where the it shines really, right? Because as a normal
No,
user,
I'm running in a headless Raspberry Pi. There is no browser at all in that actually.
no, that is true. That
So
is see, that's where I'm again
yeah,
coming back
so
to a non-technical user, right? I mean,
yeah,
uh,
even a non-technical user, you are going to plug in the API keys for your POS or your
but
backend
then those
systems for that.
skills needs to be available for me to, I mean, configure it myself, correct?
If you have a REST key, then that's as good as
Yeah, I mean,
accessing any system.
I think let's be practical, right? I
Because
mean, a shop owner may not be. I mean, they may be just running a POS system. They may not. I mean, they are maybe good at Instagram and other things. I'm sure all of them are. But I mean, I don't know if they know what's an API
If
key,
you
how to
like,
put that
if
and all that.
of course they should be knowing, right? Because they are just using Instagram, they are using Facebook, they are using LinkedIn, and they have access to this via APIs. Actually,
But I think
they
the
are plugging
power,
this.
what I see for a normal user is where I can instruct this and to run this whole thing on my behalf using a browser, right? That's what I feel the power of this.
I don't go into that at all actually,
I mean,
because
that's the developer
that
view,
just
right?
kills.
Again.
No, that just kills its potential actually. I see it running as a headless, where I give them the
No, no, it
access
runs
to.
headless. I mean, it runs headless, but then it have access to all the resources on your I mean Mac, right? The Mac Mini if you're talking about. Then why do I want to, let's say, if let's say I can say,
I'm
hey,
talking about scenario where I am not even looking at you need to have a browser in your system and stuff like that. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking at something like automating all tasks via API keys
no,
and
I
giving
completely,
access to
no,
the
no. Where
databases.
I differ there, suppose like that is a pure tech developer view, right? Where you
It's
want to
not a
run
tech
this.
at all, right? Because it's just most of the people who are using multiple these accounts, who are posting videos in like in your X or LinkedIn or Instagram, and they are having business accounts. All that runs via API keys. They have to have a familiarity of that, how to get it, log in, where to log in, get it, and then where to put it. So this is just as simple as that. Like you get the key and then you put it, you are plugged into the system, and then OpenClaw has a context. It understands, okay, tell me the sale, pick me the sales of February. It knows where to go pick it up, actually. It is not like earlier systems where you have to tell them, access this API to get that. No, it is not even that, actually. It's just as good a beautiful understanding once you plug in all the APIs. And then it knows what the context you're talking about.
I don't know
And then
if it
it
has
can pull that out.
reached that stage, to be frank, because some other
Absolutely, right?
systems.
Like, so I'll tell you, I've plugged in some of the API keys,
No,
what
I
I
mean
use.
let me give you a simple example. No, I mean take some of the invoicing software, right? Whether it is in India, Zoho or whatever people use, right? I don't know if this can, let's say I put the Zoho API key, can I like say for example, hey, give me all the invoices pending, right? If I ask in Telegram, I don't know if it has reached a level where it can do that. If it can
Uh, I,
do, where it can open the
I don't know
browser,
whether Zoho has the REST APIs for
they
that.
have.
If they have a REST API, then it can do. There is nothing stops them doing it.
But is there a
If you have a
skill
REST
which you need
API,
to develop for it, or I mean, how does it consume Zoho
for
API?
the REST APIs, you don't need any specialized skill coming in. But if you are a provider, if you are a Zoho, and then you want to have OpenClaw to understand that this customer is coming from Zoho, then I will basically publish that skill from Zoho to OpenClaw. But then if you are just using it, if you are, it's that is exactly the scenario what you're talking about. I don't know what REST is. I don't know where to put
Yeah,
the key is. So that is when the vendor goes ahead and puts a skill,
exactly.
like what Alibaba has done in China. Like that is
See,
when that happens.
that is what I'm
But
saying is a big
that that
thing which
that
for
is a
mass
block of
adoption.
Zoho. That is a block of Zoho, not as like a consumer. The consumer is curious. He wants to put this. Like many people go and knock the doors of Zoho, tells them that, boss, I have this software which wants to access it. I don't know how you allow me to do it. Then they will open it up. But if you have a REST call, and then if you are making a REST use, if you are accessing a REST services, then you don't need to have that kind of skill published from the vendor at all.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me it is still that for a non-technical user, any software it can integrate with through a
I
UI.
mean, these are similar comments, right? Like when you initial PC adoption came in, like people said the same thing. Like I don't know what is a browser, what is HTTP, and what is TCP/IP. Then it all goes in the background, right? Like, we all just
Right.
start using it without knowing what it is. Actually. I don't see that as a big problem. Actually, I'm really super excited about
No, I mean,
how this
this
system.
is just challenging you on why there is not much adoption in India, right? Probably this is the reason. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, that's what I think, right?
Okay.
So maybe there
I
are
don't
see some
see
many of the POS
they have
systems I have seen
they have they
stores
have
are using.
I mean, we have enough technical people in this country who should be
Correct, correct.
all running this
No,
in their
correct. I
home
mean, just to
office,
give an
wherever they
example,
are.
the POS systems, what many of our small stores or even medium level stores are running, they're all desktop softwares, right? And probably they don't even have API and things like that. And
Yeah,
let's say if I want to, as a store owner, if I want to quickly check, okay, what's the inventory status on a certain
yeah.
product, I mean, if that system doesn't support API, which is most of the case, that's the case, right? Then this is where that browser based, where I can, hey, you can open this in your POS system and it can query this and give you. That's an amazing game changer for me, Greg.
Yeah, I mean that you if you want to run it in a Mac Mini and give browser access, yeah, you can do that. That is not stopping
Yeah.
any of your use cases at all. But like what I was suggesting is that then even you want to have go with even cleaner instances where you don't need to have access to the browser and stuff like that. That's more of a ugly solution. People people will do like a cat and mouse game for that. You are accessing my site via agent, I will block you, and then he will come like what Amazon is doing, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't want to have an agent to buy a software and stuff like that. So that's the reason I didn't want to go into that side because it's just waste of time because it just misleads people and stuff like that. So
No, but that is a
uh
different thing. That is essentially what Perplexity and others are doing with their own browser and stuff. But here, it's your. I mean, it's sort of it doing the browsing on your behalf, right? I don't know
you
if
can still
Amazon
fingerprint an agent actually. You can still
can you.
fingerprint
I
an
don't
agent.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Because you have a response time, mouse move. There are so many. I mean, browser these days has like kind of a humpty number of fingerprinting techniques it gives you. You can easily figure out on the server side whether an agent is doing it or not. But then this is just I don't want to get into that. That is just kind of a very ugly game how people will play this. I don't want to go there.
Where
It's
I
just
see
useless.
is exciting is so for me is like if you look at the IoT. I mean, what are the ultimate use case was, let's say every other machine will be connected and all that, right? Which we didn't see much of it, right? I mean, though there are many products which came, but I think this is definitely a space where that could happen instead of going through IoT and all those things. Where if let's say if it gets embedded in every other device we buy, your washing machine, fridge, and everything. This is definitely something which I can instruct, let's say, remotely from wherever. Hey, switch on the washing machine, switch on this, and all those things, right? I think that is where
I mean, like, so what you're looking at essentially is that whoever implements the agent protocol, which is what technically what every vendor is doing it. So all your nodes becomes automatically agent aware, agent to agent
correct.
communication can happen. But then this is nothing to do with that. Like that is just going to be one implementation of agent
No,
protocol
no.
on the client side.
Why is different? I'll tell you because let's say, for example, if I need to compute, I
It
mean,
just only advertises that in my network. Other than that, I don't see that as a much of a use. Like you buy an AC and then it just comes with an agent, and then I have an agentic software running. It's going to advertise saying that I am a AC sitting here. I have these capabilities to do it and stuff
no.
like
But
that.
the
But
problem
then
today is
that
because
is one aspect of it.
the protocols never were actually synchronized, right? For example, every other manufacturer is pushing their own thing, right? So if I want to communicate with my, let's say I may have 3 or 4 devices from different manufacturers, and that's where this Apple Home, Google Home, and all those things came, and they were trying to do that. This can break all of that, correct? So I don't need to really have an Apple Home, Google Home, or anything. I can simply just have whether I use WeChat, Telegram, or WhatsApp, whatever. I can communicate with my devices from anywhere. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Um,
Provided the device guy is interested to put an agent,
exactly.
implement an agent protocol, but still
As
the
long as it
underneath.
stays as open source and people are adopting it, I see that happening.
No, no, these two are two different things I'm talking about. OpenClaw is different and agent protocol is different. So irrespective of OpenClaw, there are other vendors who are also implementing agent protocols actually. So that will be like your HTTP or like TCP/IP or MCP and stuff like that. So these are two different things we are talking about. So that is like something like an agent protocol, which could be like coming in different ways, not necessarily
No,
OpenClaw as it
what I
is.
am saying is essentially all my devices becomes sort of like just like how I have friends in my Telegram channel, for example, or whatever you use. my devices also comes there as one more friend like that, right? That's what I am saying, right? Which is not possible today.
Provided that vendor implements an agent protocol in
Correct.
the hardware.
I'm saying the
So
opportunity space, right?
opportunity is there, but that is just a long. Before going there, you have like umpteen number of ways you can just utilize these actually on your day-to-day life. Actually.
Yeah, I have tons of ideas. Maybe we should probably collate some of those, put together and say maybe do another episode of what potentially you can
Yeah,
do with this, and maybe even show some cool demos in our upcoming sessions if
yeah.
possible.
So I've been asking one of the agent to wipe code and pull
Wipe code
data
what?
pull data from pull data from my Garmin,
Okay.
Strava, and also submitting every day what I'm eating and asking an OpenClaw agent to look at it and then come back and tell me what are the nutritional deficiencies. By end of the day, I sleep actually. And like this is just there is no end how you utilize it. Like and
Yeah.
all this happens. I mean, this entire software stack it built in about 4 hours or something. I had to put only the API keys for Strava and register a Garmin Connect, and it is able to scrap through either uh, I mean, like by taking a help of a cloud LLM, it is able to scrap through the
Yeah.
nutritional values. All I do is just submit what I eat in like even the traditional Indian food what I eat, and it is able to scrap through that data and come back and tell me in a 75% approximation in terms of what is the nutritional value I have. I would say that easily because it's just that accuracy is just like phenomenal. So I've been just freaking out with this.
Yeah, of course, I could see that. So I think maybe, yeah, definitely. I think we should do a little more structured episode on the different sort of
Yeah,
interesting ideas around this.
yeah. I can just highlight in terms of how I use personally day to day, and
Correct.
then for work, and then yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I think
This
that's,
is pretty revelation for me.
yeah, it's definitely
No
exciting.
matter
Yes.
whether it succeeds in China or not, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will catch up here as well. It just probably somebody needs to give that as a service offering. I feel in India it's probably the ISPs only have to do it. It's probably, I think, is the way to go forward. I mean, somebody comes with this service and then people start adopting it, right? So interesting stuff.
So
Okay.
now, so just give you one, just a last tidbit before we close. So China has become the number one leading market adopter, actually, overtaken US.
Correct. Yeah.
And then India and broader Asia is less like about 12% traffic, and which is like 500% of that 12% is from Singapore. So, and then followed by Europe. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
where
it
we
is
are.
really not caught up in India, that much I can tell you.
I can see that because even in the Twitter, when you're there on the AI circles and stuff like that, I don't see much chatter
No, not much.
around this at all. Actually, I was just learning.
Yeah.
I mean, it is there, but then it is not to that level. What the excitement around other across the world, what is happening, right? So,
Yeah, you're right. You're right
bit
on that.
surprised about it.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much what we want to talk about. So we'll connect next week. We may have a guest next week to take forward some of the discussions around AI and its use case and all that. With that, bye, Subbu.
All right,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.